Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahawa Kajura, but first are the headlines. Late Okabe's son, Emmanuel Omoding, wins Sere by-election. The First Lady Jill Biden arrives in Namibia for 5-day Africa visit. Burkina Faso holds reburial ceremony for Thomas Sankara. In sports news today, home best players make late trip to Angola for FIBA World Cup qualifiers. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, Emmanuel Omoding, the son to the late Patrick Okabe, was declared the winner of the Sere County parliamentary by-election by Electoral Commission.
Omoding, who stood in the by-election as an independent candidate, got 15,638, beat NRM Philip Oka, who got 13,206, and were running neck to neck, whereas Alliance for Nations Alice Alasso came third with 3,335 votes. On the other side, independent candidate Martin got 2,523 votes to come fourth, whereas Forum for Democratic Change's Emmanuel Ratu got 1,252 votes and came last. The Sere District Returning Officer Sylvia Cheptegei Nangendo, in accordance with Section 58, Subsection 1 of the Parliamentary Elections Act, declared Emmanuel Omoding, who obtained the largest number of votes, to be the elected candidate for Sere County constituency. The ruling NRM party team, led by their Electoral Commission chairperson Dr. Tanga Odoi, accepted the defeat.
Away from that, the U.S. First Lady Jill Biden arrived in Namibia on Wednesday as part of a 5-day trip to Africa that will also include a visit to Kenya. Now, the country has not welcomed a high-level U.S. official since 1996.
The U.S. First Lady Jill Biden's trip is part of a commitment by President Joe Biden to deepen U.S. engagement with the fast-growing region. She is expected to promote the empowerment of Africa's women and its youth, as well as the younger, ravaging the drought-prone Horn of Africa. Jill and Monica Jingos, Namibia's First Lady, embraced on the tarmac before Jill Biden greeted U.S. and Namibia diplomatic and government officials. She is accompanied by her granddaughter, Naomi Biden. Her first stop after arriving was a 45-minute drive south of capital of Windhoek to lay a wreath at Heroes Acre, Namibia's official war memorial. Africa is the fastest growing and youngest region in the world, according to the White House, which says 1 of every 4 people in the world will be African by 2050. The White House has withheld specific details of First Lady's activities in each country, citing security concerns. This diplomatic trip to Africa aims to cement the United Nations relations on the continent, as actors like Russia and China are gaining considerable momentum with African heads of state.
Thank you so much, your reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back for the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the Bright Channel. In international news, 4 top Nigerian presidential candidates signed a peace deal on Wednesday ahead of a presidential election on Saturday. Now, the only candidate absent from the ceremony was Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the ruling party, All Progressives Congress, who was represented by his vice presidential running mate. We have more on this report.
The head of the Nigerian Electoral Commission confirmed the organization is ready to hold the election. According to the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mohammed Yakubu, the signing of peace accord came at the critical moment in the electoral calendar. He announced that the campaign for presidential and National Assembly elections ended at midnight Thursday, 23rd February 2023, while the election will be held on Saturday this week. Past presidential elections in Nigeria have been marred by violence, fraud, court challenges, and a rise in ethnic tensions. The peace deal is a private initiative for religious, traditional, and opinion leaders who urged candidates to focus on issues and stay away from incitement to violence. The Commission committed to free, fair, and credible elections in compliance with the electoral legal framework and the letter and spirit of the peace accord. A total of 18 presidential hopefuls are running, including one woman. According to the analysts, the election race will be close, with third-party candidate Peter Obi challenging the traditional dominancy of the ruling APC and main opposition PDP.
Away from that, the body of Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader, Thomas Sankara, was buried on Thursday alongside 12 of his comrades at the spot where they were assassinated in a coup 3 decades ago. Now, the ceremony was held in the presence of the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso. We have more on this report.
Nicknamed Africa's Che Guevara, Thomas Sankara was a fiery Marxist-Leninist who blasted the West for neocolonialism and hypocrisy. He changed the country's name from the colonial era Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, the land of honest men, and pushed through a range of reforms, including promoting vaccination and banning female genital mutilation. Sankara was idolized by supporters of Pan-Africanism and egalitarianism, but his tenure was short-lived. Him and a dozen other leaders were gunned down by a hit squad at a meeting of the ruling National Revolutionary Council in the capital Gadugu. The killings took place on the same day that Sankara's comrade in arms, Blaise Compaoré, seized power and ruled the country for 27 years. After Compaoré's downfall, the 13 bodies were exhumed from a cemetery on the outskirts of the city for an investigation. It led to a lengthy trial that culminated in April 2022 with life terms in absentia for Compaoré and the suspected hit squad leader, and a similar term for a detained general who had been army commander at the time. The government said previously that in the light of that trial, the 13 should be buried honorably.
Moving on, South Africa's military on Wednesday defended its decision to host controversial naval exercises jointly staged with Russia and China, and coinciding with the one-year anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine.
But coming on the eve of the anniversary of Russia's onslaught on Ukraine, the drills were described by commentators as politically dubious and showing insensitivity. The exercises have also been criticized by the United States and the European Union. South Africa has refused to condemn the invasion of Ukraine, which has largely isolated Moscow on an international stage, saying it prefers dialogue to end the war. Lieutenant General Sifiwe Nsangweni, Chief of Joint Operations in the South African National Defence Force, told the news conference in the eastern port town of Richards Bay that there is a difference between military and politics. More than 350 members of the South Africa's armed forces will take part in the exercises, which wind up on February 27th. Russia is the lead country in the drills, according to South Africa.
Now, Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with business, health, and sports. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the bright to know. Talking matters business, South Africa unveiled on Wednesday new tax incentives to encourage investment in the production of clean power to help the country battle an energy crisis that has sparked worsening blackouts. We have more on this report.
The Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana said as he presented his annual budget to Parliament that started March 1st, businesses will be able to reduce their taxable income by 125% of the cost of an investment in renewables. The continent's most industrialized country has been laboring under devastating energy shortfall for months, largely due to underinvestment in power utility, Eskom's aging and poorly maintained plans. Earlier this month, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced a national state of disaster and the appointment of an electricity minister to help intensify the response to the crisis. Godongwana said that South Africa has suffered blackouts over the past decades, but more recently that they become more persistent and prolonged and are wreaking havoc on the economy, in particular the country's freight and logistics network. The government had already said last year that it was taking half of Eskom's debt pile of 400 billion rand.
In a health news today, several damage were caused by Cyclone Freddy in Madagascar. 4 people were killed by the passage of Freddy on the large island of 28 million inhabitants, according to a report given in the morning by the National Office of Risk and Disaster Management, which did not change during the day.
More than 16,600 Malagasy were affected, with some 4,500 houses flooded or damaged. France's Weather Service Motel France said Freddy weakened as it tracked across Madagascar, dropping to an average wind speed of 55 kilometers per hour. But the agency warned the storm would pick up strength from the warm Mozambique Channel as it headed towards the African mainland. Cyclone Freddy is expected to land on Friday in regions between central and southern Mozambique, more than 500 kilometers north of the capital, Maputo, and could reach Zimbabwe. Mozambique's government has declared a red alert to allow agencies to prepare for a potential emergency. Freddy had developed into one of the biggest cyclones in the recent years to threaten Madagascar, which is typically lashed several times during the annual November-April storm season.
In a sports news today, the national men's football team, the Silverbacks, trip to Angola for the last window of the FIBA Basket World Cup qualifiers hung in balance until Thursday. Ahumuza Hasma. Thank you so much, reporter Ahumuza. It is at this particular time that I thank you for being with us and always joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.